Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today I Mañana. I'm Alex. This is Xavier. We're very excited to have you joining us on. It's definitely a chilly morning here in Charlottesville, Virginia. It feels nice in the sun.
Well, it's gorgeous in the sun.
But
well, I mean, I left the house this morning, right? And I knew it was cold because all the grass in the back was like all ice. Mm-hmm. So I said, ooh, it must be cold out there, right? I looked, it's 24 degrees. But I walked out, and it's just, I mean, I didn't feel cold at all. I mean, it's just like, it just felt so nice because the sun was already shining. Mm-hmm. And once you walk to the sun, it just feels good. You know?
Exactly.
So,
the sun on your face is beautiful. But then the shade comes, and you're like, oh, I do need my nice,
the worst thing, not even,
yeah,
absolutely. A nice café con leche comes in extremely handy, you know? I mean, for me, maybe even hot chocolate, but that's a more evening thing, right? Because supposedly it makes you feel comfortable and go to sleep.
Yeah, which we don't want you falling asleep on the show.
Everyone
might not know that it was hot chocolate. They might just think, oh man, Xavier, he's getting...
No. You know me well enough. It's very hard for me to fall asleep anytime during the day. After my glass of wine at night, maybe.
That's different.
Before that, no way. Doesn't happen.
But it's a great day. Get something warm, get to a cozy spot, and watch them Today Mañana. Because we're going to be joined by some fantastic guests a little bit. We're going to be joined by Jesse Bellavance from Bellavance Inc. And then later in the show, we're going to have a monthly meetup with Matthias from Matthias Realty is going to be coming on. And
Looking forward to both. Yeah.
Absolutely. A big thank you, of course, to Emergent Financial Services for presenting and for our great partners at Craddock Serious Insurance, Matthias Realty, Castle Hill Cider, Forward Adelante, and of course, just love being here on the I Love CVille Network.
This is fantastic. Yeah. You know, it's funny. I was... I was so on the way in today with Michael, right? We were talking. He told me that I guess pitchers and catchers, I think, came,
reporting.
I don't know if it was yesterday or today or something, right? And so I said to him, and this is a line from a movie. I said, what are we going to be doing today? Remember from the rookie?
What do we do today? What we did to play baseball?
That's right. We get to play baseball, right? Mm-hmm. So I was thinking about, what do we get to do today? Today Mañana.
Today
right?
Mañana.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, the point is that it's fun. It's enjoyable, exactly. Right? I mean, and it's true. It's like...
Yeah, the point of the line is it's not work.
Yeah.
It's just something fun that we...
Yeah, exactly. Something that we enjoy doing.
Even if it does take some effort.
Well, it takes effort to play baseball too, right?
We passed most of the effort on to Nate. We're like, find us people.
That's right.
Xavier and I just want to walk into the studio on Thursday morning and find out who's there.
That's right.
So a couple people liked the show. Heather worked. Liking the show this morning, Rosalia Cordaro watching the show this morning, Dr. Elizabeth Urpí watching the show this morning. So appreciate all our fantastic viewers tuning in already.
Wonderful.
I have to say, you must be, not that I want to say it's bad luck, but man, UVA hadn't lost, and Mike and I were coming on every week, and then I'm coming on with you, and they lost 2 days ago.
Well, they lost before I came on.
I know,
so you can't blame me.
They must have known you were coming on.
You're blaming me for that.
They must have known you were coming on.
They must have known it was coming.
But,
that was not a good loss, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. It was... they didn't play badly.
Well, the three-point shooting was just...
Yeah, but the other team shot 50% from three. It's hard to win when the other team shoots 50%.
Yeah, we talk about that too, basketball. I think even college basketball is changing. I mean, there's just so much three-point shooting now.
Exactly.
The whole game is
very different
a little bit.
game.
Yeah.
A very different game. You kind of have to live by the three or die by the three.
Exactly.
At this point. But speaking of baseball, UVA baseball starts Friday.
Oh, okay.
Yep, UVA lacrosse started
That's
last
right.
Saturday, so all the spring sports are gearing into...
Good, because there's no more football. I mean, all the fun stuff is gone. I mean, baseball's coming, but the real baseball doesn't start.
You don't watch the NBA?
I am not an NBA fan. No. The idea of guys running back and forth, just shooting, play on no defense, nah. In the old days where you could hit the guy, trip him and stuff like that. That's what I liked.
Exactly. I have to say, it is amazing. You watch that old videos, right? And you watch that Michael Jordan, and he's not being body checked.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the time.
All
they're all over him, and
yes.
he still makes a shot. And I'd love to see today's people play.
We'll see how many threes. That's right.
Push.
Exactly, yeah. Now you can't even touch a guy. You can't even look at him. It's like, foul.
Different game. But so a lot of spring sports coming into play, which is nice. So we'll be gearing into all the fun things you can do in Charlottesville as the winter turns into the spring.
Yeah, and it happens quickly in Charlottesville, so it's very nice.
Exactly. It'll be here before you know it. We'll probably get like one more snowfall that kills a bunch of trees, but after that,
Gee, thanks, Alan.
then we will have
That's all I need to know.
After that, we'll have spring at last. So I don't know about you, but I'm excited to jump
absolutely.
into today's guests.
Yes.
So we're thrilled to welcome to the show this morning Jesse Bellavance from Bellavance Inc. Jesse, thanks for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No, we've been looking forward to it. So maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. Just, I guess people and Judah a little bit. I'm sure we'll show on the screen some of your artwork, and people may recognize some of it. Maybe a little bit how you first became interested in art and in just drawing as you do.
In ink.
In ink.
Sure. I started off maybe 15 years ago. I was a contractor for the government. I did mapping work, so I did a lot of GIS and illustrations of maps and stuff like that. And over the course of the 15 years, I worked. I said I worked at Quantico, and then I worked. When I moved here, I worked for SNL Financial, and then I pretty much burned out doing the sit behind the desk computer work. And so I needed to find something else for me to do. And I already had a background in detail and a little bit illustration. So I really just, back in 2016, I just started the process of teaching myself how to draw. So I bought that book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, I believe. And just started from there, did pencil sketches, and then did portraits of people, famous people. And then it was a little messy for me using pencil, so I transitioned to ink, and then I just started to draw things I liked. Both my parents were artists, and so I look at their illustrations from the back, and it's kind of quirky. And so I probably inherited their sense of humor and stuff. So most of my illustrations that you can divide into two categories, a lot of local Charlottesville stuff, and then kind of like whimsical in nature. So probably the one illustration that people may recognize in Charlottesville is the skyline drawing. And I usually have a giant monster attacking it. Godzilla was the first one, and then King Kong, and then it just progressed. But I have fun drawing. I don't consider it work compared to my other jobs. It is. I understand I'm working, but it's not real hard. And now I do a lot of commission work and reach out. A lot of businesses will call up. I've done some logos for some local stores, and that's pretty much the evolution of where I came from.
You had some background, and then you decided to turn it into like a business?
Right. So I had to reinvent myself after doing the mapping stuff. And I did real estate for a few years, and it's hard. It's a hard job. But I was able to do some of my artwork within that, and then transitioned into just doing my own kind of style of artwork. Did I answer the question?
Oh, you did.
Yeah, no, you did.
When I liked your art, it does. It combines. You've got your landmarks. Your I love. You've got your the Love Charlottesville with the tires. You've got the Croze Pizza UVA, and then you've got the more whimsical ones like a lot of. And I noticed on your website, which is BellevanceInc.com. I noticed that in addition to like some custom art, you also do like birthday cards and other types of stationery.
Yeah, I'm kind of like Hallmark, but maybe more funny. I don't know. I cover all the categories that you'll find in your typical store. You have birthday cards, Christmas cards. That's probably half my business is doing a lot of stationery work. I sell, and it sounds big to say I sell across the country, but I sell to a lot of different shops in different states. And so right now I'm in that process of trying to expand out, contacting as many people as I can, just getting them familiar with my process, the wholesale process that I have. And I also eventually like this, if I can, franchise this.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see where that goes.
Absolutely.
So for the like the birthday cards and the Christmas, Easter, whatever they may be, do you constantly change those, or is there like one set and this is what goes out?
I try to do something new, at least 2 illustrations related to birthdays a year or Christmas or holidays. I always keep it fresh, so the idea is that by the time I'm 65, I have this gigantic catalog and I don't have to work anymore if I don't want to. And people just order, just keep ordering the same stuff. But I like drawing, so
exactly.
I'm always going to be adding stuff. I feel like this is my retirement. I started when I was 50, or no, I guess when I quit working doing the mapping stuff. But now for the most part I do the drawings, and then I do the farmers market every weekend. And so my lifestyle has changed a lot since working from 9 to 5, and it's more laid back. I am very busy, but I'm on my own schedule. It's very nice, and it's fun to do my job. So it's easy to always come up with new things.
And I would assume that the nice thing when you do that and you work for yourself in a way, it's that there's an inspiration, and when that inspiration comes, sit down and do it. As opposed to when you're forced to do something, you sit there and go, "What do I do? What do I draw?" Is that the case? Or?
Well, first inspiration was survival. So I knew I had to make money, so that was a prime motivator. But I don't have a problem coming up with ideas.
Okay.
That's one thing I'm very fortunate with is my cup runneth over. Basically, I cannot control the stream that comes out. I just have to make sure what does come out will sell or is funny or is good. I've thrown a lot of stuff against the wall, and probably half of it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But I'm lucky. I always have a lot of ideas brewing in my head.
What made you decide on the ink medium to draw?
Laziness. So originally I did pencil, which is hugely messy for me. You smear the paper. Ink is precise, dries quick. I can do watercolor over it. And it's just cleaner. And now I'd say half my work is I do a lot on my iPad. So do a lot of commercial work. And so it's so easy now because I have a simple style, pen and ink. It's black and white, very binary. And I just draw it, and I can create layers on the iPad, stack things, add watercolor effects to it. So it's,
oh, wow.
I use a program called Procreate. It's changed pretty much how fast I can get things done, how efficient, and also provides cleaner images for final production.
Well, how interesting. It's almost like digital art in a sense.
I'd say probably about 80% now is digital art. Wow. If someone wants ink, I'll do it, but it costs probably 10 times as much. I can get it done probably half the time. I can undo my mistakes, which is something you couldn't do 20 years ago. You couldn't really undo your mistakes.
Made a mistake, you start over.
Or you just had to blend it in and make it work with the rest of the image. But yeah.
So when you talk about something interesting, so if you do something in ink, right, and you're going to mass produce it, right, you just do one in ink, and that's mass produced, I suspect, right?
Well, it depends. If I'm doing traditional ink, I have to scan it in, bring in Photoshop, remove all the dust and paper effects. But when you draw on an iPad, it's binary, 1 or 0. You have the image that you drew and then the background. So it's super clean, and it's so much better for production. You can bring it into other programs like Adobe Illustrator and then convert it into vector files, which you can blow up to any size you want. I mean, the technology has changed so much from when my dad was an artist. I remember talking to him, and he said, this is like 30 years ago, and he said, eventually people are going to be doing all this stuff on computers and stuff like that. And I was like, no. But here I am doing exactly what he said. I would be, better than I'm doing it.
Which is amazing. It's reached the point where you can have that precision where you can be actually drawing and it will precisely capture. Because I remember when the first touch screens came out and stuff. I mean, like you try to do your signature and everything's like a smudge. But now there's like a level of precision that's just amazing. Just that you can get the thin lines that you get that just look
much more control for sure. It took some getting used to. I actually have my stepdaughter helps me out with the iPad. I thought I was tech savvy, but I have to ask her for things like, how do I do this in Procreate to do what I make sure the line work is always consistently the same size, depending on the scale I'm drawing at. Before I was changing pen sizes and doing all this stuff. She just goes, nope, just do this, and fixes it, and then I can do all the work. And it's amazing what the next generation has access to and what they're going to produce, provided AI doesn't just kill us all and take it over.
Exactly.
Or
do it for them.
Yeah.
Or do it for us.
Do it for us.
So you still, so in essence, when you do it on the laptop, right, or wherever it is that you do it, you literally still have to draw, right? It's not like...
It's by hand.
So you
Right.
still have a pen or multiple pens that you use to draw whatever it is that came into your head, right?
Same process, just different medium and technique. So
Okay.
I still have basically a paper, you set a paper size on your tablet, 8 by 10, which is standard size. Make sure you use the pens for that scale you're drawing to. Great thing is you can zoom in with, now I have to wear readers. So it's a lot easier just to click it and then draw at the scale. You can be much more precise in your illustrations. But yeah, I mean, it's all digital and all exportable.
No, but the point is you're still the artist. It's not like you're grabbing things and then changing. You literally start from scratch just like you would with a piece of
blank
paper and ink.
canvas,
yeah.
You're still the artist, and everything there that goes on that computer there is you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I draw everything. A lot of people send me photographs, so I have to draw from photographs.
Gotcha.
A lot of it, especially if it's a house. I've drawn a lot of homes and a lot of businesses. So I do work from a picture. I need to see it, but I draw it on the tablet
Understood,
from scratch, and then. But I still do watercolors in traditional artwork. It's still fun to do. I really like just simple watercolors. I do these little things called I call them micro watercolors. They're almost like a dollhouse scale, 1 to 12. So they're about postage size stamps. And so I sit there. I have like jeweler's glasses on, and I'm just painting these tiny little watercolors. But they're super fun, and people seem to like them. So.
Wow,
That's fantastic.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Did you have some originals as well that you can on your website and other things?
I have a few, yeah.
A few of them, yeah. But I think out of curiosity, did your parents also had the whimsical style?
My mom did. I look at the way, I like drawing sheep. They're funny looking, but I look at how she drew them, and there's a mirror image, a genetic relationship between how she draws and how I draw. And same thing for my dad. My dad was very heavy-handed with his illustrations, and if you look at mine, they're stark. I mean, it's heavy line work, and so it's kind of neat to have that in me.
Both.
Exactly.
As part of a tradition. They never taught me anything, so I wish that's the problem. The thing is, I could be so much better now. If my parents had pushed me a little bit when I was a kid, I was just drawing like space battles on pieces of paper, but I didn't start drawing until 8 years ago. If they had started me when I was 14, I'd be, where would I be now? I'd be like the Steve Jobs of stationery.
But you wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be up to date
I'm with the common people.
So out of curiosity, what's it been like on the entrepreneurship side of saying, okay, I'm doing this, you draw, and then to market and grow the business?
Well, originally it was just Etsy. I just posted on Etsy, and I had my own website, Bellavanceinc.com. And then I did start doing the farmers market. I used to go to the farmers market here, and I never thought of it as something I could do. So I think it was 2 years before COVID, I started doing the city market. And then COVID came and destroyed that. Ix popped up. They had their farmers market. And so I did that until things kind of progressed and the city opened back up. So now I do the city market, and then my wife, she does the Ix market. So it's kind of like a team effort at this point.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
But for now, it's just, I'd say probably half my business, or probably a third of it, comes from the farmers market. And then the rest of it comes from online sales. And then I do, this year especially, I've done a lot more commissions, local commissions, and it's been fun working with all the different people in our area.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's amazing. Just what the farmers markets can do. Because it's true. I think sometimes people think of farmers markets, buy your vegetables, but especially in Charlottesville, there are so many unique businesses that are not selling food.
It was a lifesaver. I mean, if COVID came and I got the checks from the government, but if it wasn't for the farmers market, it would have been a lot harder.
Yeah.
And so I have so much appreciation for the farmers markets we have. I'd love to have them expand more. I'd love to have a dedicated spot, that is, covered and stuff like that. But I'm really happy with what the city has done, what the Ix has done to promote art and also the local farm. I mean, it's got to be a godsend also for the farmers to have a location to sell in the city.
Exactly. Yeah.
We've had so many people on farmers small businesses selling like prepared food businesses. I mean, restaurants, caterers that they use that.
The stones. Remember that?
Oh yes, the
that
jewelry.
lady with jewelry.
Yes,
the
the
stones
jewelry store. So many like artisans and craftspeople. So it's really fantastic.
No, it's a great venue for small businesses and people are getting started. And as you said, I mean, it's one of those things where on this given day, and I agree with you. I wish there was a way to do this almost on a daily basis, where there was a place here in Charlottesville.
I would love that.
That you almost could rotate it. Okay, so I can't be there Monday to Friday, but this booth is available Monday through Friday, and you say, I got Monday, I got Thursday, I got Friday, whatever day that is, right? But anyway, the point is, the idea to be able to just go out on those particular days and display your work and then meet people and talk to people, and you get tourists coming in, right? I mean, that's really good.
That's the great thing about Charlottesville is we have a strong local community that supports me pretty well. But I also set up on the downtown mall during the week, and so I do get some of that business as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of new people are coming in, so you always have that circulation of new shoppers and new people to work
Exactly.
with.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Did some props here. Katie Pearl says Jesse is extremely talented. Thanks for watching the show this morning. Kevin Higgins says, in his opinion, AI may be the best thing for art ever because everyone will want something original from an actual human. So when we're inundated with all this AI stuff, people are going to be like, no, I want one from an actual human.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about coming up with a tagline for Bellavance, like made by humans. I feel like, how there's like standard, guilds or groups that represent. There should be one for just human artists, and then you register them and you get a stamp, and then you can use that on your artwork. I feel like we really going to have to start promoting the fact that we're humans doing illustrations. I mean, I play around with AI. I use the AI to come up with funny things that might work, and they all look the same.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, I'm sure down the road it'll evolve, but I'm not looking forward to it.
But I think there will always be that, because I remember when NFTs were all the rage like 2 years ago, you didn't have an NFT that this one-time only digital picture of the Mona Lisa, and then I think just after a while people were like, but why would I want a digital picture of there's still only one actual Mona Lisa.
That's right.
Right? The fact that I have this one time only, I can't see anything different about it. So I think even though there are these things when they first appear, it said, oh, that's interesting, a computer did that and it can do it way easier. I think eventually people always kind of revert back to, but a computer did it. I kind of want something that a person
what
did.
stops eventually that just repeating itself? The computer doing another one, and then the only difference is there's one little tiny bit here that's different than the original NFT.
Yeah. Even if the computer
could
could make its own style, I think people at some point, it would probably be interesting for a while, like, oh, this AI has its own style and it's really different. But then I think eventually people will be back to, but a computer did it.
Maybe it's just a fad. We'll see, but it's hard to tell at this point.
It is. Nicholas Urpí watching agrees he would love to see a man-made tag or a sticker, but instead of like made in the USA, it's like made by humans.
Yeah.
So just
got to make sure the AI doesn't put that in. Right. Made by humans. Wait a minute.
Wait a second.
They're smarter than we are.
Said prove I'm not human. So, but it really, the nice thing is like your style is really something unique that I think people would enjoy, and like you can't really find it. You don't often see birthday cards that have this style or any kind of card and piece of art that has that kind of mix of it's something recognizable but also funny.
Well, thank you. I try to make it interesting.
And the other nice thing sometimes is that you buy something like that, it's in a way it's unique because it was created by a particular person, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Not that, you look at them and say, some of these birthday cards, it's like you've seen them before or whatever.
Yeah. What's that if you were to send someone as a gift, pick up, the Charlottesville style line with Godzilla, right? They know you got this from someone in Charlottesville where you live. They know you didn't go to Amazon.
Exactly.
Right? And get it from some mass-produced Chinese thing because nobody would mass-produce that, right? You know you got it from someone who's doing it in Charlottesville, which I think means a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
But Jesse, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank you very
Before we
much.
let you go, where can people get in touch, find your art?
You can find it on my website, Bellavance Inc., and that's ink.com. Also, I'm on Etsy, and I'm also in the downtown mall every so often. I try to come out when the weather's nice. And then lastly, you can always meet me at the farmer's market. Stop by, say hi. Glad to chat. I love chatting. So
Exactly. Yeah, meet Jesse at the farmers market, and then, or your wife at
Or
the
my
X
wife,
one.
yeah. We have a competition who sells the most.
Who's
so
on? There you
always
go.
come to me first.
There you go. Well, Jesse, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you very
Absolutely, it's been a
much.
pleasure. Wonderful.
So as we make our transition here,
That's,
a couple of thank yous. Ricardo Cruz Duran, thank you for watching the show this morning. Johnny Onelas, amigo del programa. I feel like at this point we can say Johnny and Ricardo are both amigos
Amigo del programa.
del programa. Thanks for watching this morning. Johnny
And they'll
Ornelas,
understand
of
what that
course.
means, too.
Oh, of course. And Johnny Ornelas, a great owner of El Mariachi on Zion's
Yeah.
Crossroads, Guadalajara, on the one on, what is it called, Fontaine?
Yeah,
the
Fontaine,
street,
yeah,
that one
yeah.
there. You can't, by Fry Spring area.
Fry
You
Spring,
can't miss
that's
it.
the word I was looking for.
Yeah, you can't miss it. You can't miss it. So he's a great entrepreneur here in the community. So appreciate them both joining us this morning and watching. And speaking of great people that we love in our community,
Who?
we're glad to
That is
welcome
a nice
back.
transition.
I know. Look at that. I try, and then he messes it up. What can I say? But,
That's why you don't want me here for these things.
Exactly.
You just don't want me.
Michael would have let me do it. Michael, he's always nice. When I make my smooth transitions, he's always like, nice transition there.
I'll say that when you finish. How's
Okay,
that?
there we go. So we're excited to welcome to the show Matthias Sion for our monthly meetup with Matthias.
Nice transition. That was
Thank
beautiful.
you, David. Matthias, thanks for coming on this morning.
Thanks for this nice introduction.
See? Even Matthias liked it.
Even Matthias liked it. So I mean, it's been a little bit of a while since Xavier has been on. 'Cause I know last time you were here with Michael and myself,
true.
but we had just come out of the Christmas season. How was January? Out of curiosity, how has January been for you? What's been new?
You mean my personal life or work
Either
life?
way,
No,
either
I
way.
know that you're.
Well, your
asking
personal life
about-
probably more important, right? Because I mean that's something that happened to you is much more important than anything else in the world. My suspicion.
Well, yeah, it's much more subjective. That's true. No, it's life's been good. We I think I mentioned this last time when I was here. We had our first baby, 8 weeks old today.
Wow.
And it's
today is her like her
8th week birthday?
day of birth. Like she was
Excuse
born
me.
on the 15th.
no, it was actually on the 21st
Okay.
First
of December. And so, yeah, almost 2 months old. And it's been a very exciting journey so far.
Is she sleeping a little more?
Yeah,
Oh,
every
good.
night is a little bit better.
Good.
4 or 5 hours. Actually, this night was particularly good. So,
No wonder you look so restful today.
I heard that this is the second time I hear this today, that I look so rested, and I like hearing that because I didn't feel that way for a long time.
Absolutely no.
Absolutely. No, thanks for asking. And yeah, work is going well as well. We had a pretty strong start of 2024 in real estate, and we were all looking with curiosity towards this new year. We had let's call it a mixed experience in 2023 with the high interest rates, and that had an impact on the housing market. And some of the problems or issues or challenges, they remain. We still face issues here on a regional level as well, but I think there's a lot of optimism. There's a momentum right now. We have inventory picking up,
Okay.
and buyers are coming out of their caves. And that obviously has to do with headlines that we hear about in the news all day. So there's reason to be optimistic that we will see first and second quarter of this year at least will be strong. Yes. So I guess when we say last year was bad, this year will be good, those are strong words. What we are really wanting to say is it's getting more balanced. And I think you, working in the financial world, you can confirm that we are heading towards maybe normalizing situation, and that will have an impact on us working in real estate as well.
I mean, certainly from a...
No, I don't agree with that at all. Normalizing? What do you mean normalizing?
Well, it depends on I guess rate-wise, probably. In other words, I think we would say...
So I was going to ask, I was going to ask that question because, I mean, obviously we hit the tip of rates probably around, kind of early December. Mm-hmm. They started to come down. Yeah. We've literally, in the last 2 weeks, given it all back. So we are back up to where we were when mortgages were 7.5%, 8%. Mm-hmm. So obviously that's going to have an impact, right? The fact that the inflation number came out and was not as good as people expected, that's not going to help long-term, right? Bonds, right? Which is, and 10-year bonds, which is where the mortgage rates comes in. But I really had a question more on, because I mean that's going to impact without any doubt. I mean, the higher the rate, the harder it is for people to I think about buying a house.
May I chime in real quick
Sure.
before you ask your question? What do you think will the Fed do in March? You said that we lost the drop that we just saw, and they raised it again. What's your near future prediction?
So I mean, the market is what kind of raised it. It wasn't the Fed hasn't done anything. It's the comment by the Fed. I mean, the Fed basically said two things, and two things have happened since then, which may change all this, right? But I think Powell came in and he said basically, he'd like to just see what happens, right? Mm-hmm. If you remember well, at the beginning of the year, it looked like the economy was still doing well, so they kind of pulled back and say, there's absolutely no reason for us to lower rates if the economy is doing well. We now had inflation numbers come higher than expected, therefore, why are we going to low rates if inflation is higher, right? Mm-hmm. Because the reason it raised was to make sure inflation came down. However, today's number, which was the retail sales, was down 0.8. That's a huge drop from what even people expected. So all of a sudden, they're sitting there.
You always expect a December to January drop, but not...
Yeah, but I mean, I think that most people expect it down 0.2, right? Is down 0.8, which is much larger than expected. And the issue, in which we talked about this in December, is you look at the credit card debt and has just ballooned. I mean, it continues to grow. Yeah. At what point do people say, I can no longer borrow to buy whatever I want to buy? So if retail sales or the consumer begins to draw back, then the Federal Reserve does have the opportunity to lower rates. So I don't think they do it in the first 6 months. I really don't at this point. Before that, I thought they might do something in March, but I think at this point he's probably gonna wait till June. I mean, that's my feeling. I might be wrong. I mean, I never guessed the Fed right anyway. So just let me put that out there. But that's my perspective.
But the interesting is you have that confluence, because I think you have those two things. It's obviously you have the national picture, right, which higher interest rates puts different. But the weird thing is the regional picture for Charlottesville, though there seems to be, I've seen is still this continued, whether it's want or need to look into purchasing a house. Because we still have people saying, despite the interest rate, coming and saying, is this a good time to look into it? Because I think just regionally, the real estate market is a different scenario. Yeah.
But you bring up an interesting point. Sensational headlines in the news are one thing, right? But then we also have the personal situation. Mm-hmm. Everyone's situation is different. Life events happen, which will dictate someone selling their home or buying their home, even though the circumstances might not be ideal. Mm-hmm. Leads me to the question, what is ideal, really? Right? So we can talk about numbers in the market all day long. At the end of the day, it comes down to regional differences. We always talk about how Central Virginia or Charlottesville area is a strong market in many regards, right? And how does it compare to the national standard? Sure, that might be interesting when we are looking at numbers and making predictions. So thanks for sharing your insight there. But I think in our regional market, we can, and we just spoke about this in our team yesterday. We do sense that there's more activity right now, at least compared to last year. And last year's situation was different. Granted, we're looking at interest rates. Sorry to bring up the rates again, but that
No, of course, that's the big.
exactly.
Do you think it may be a scenario whereby, in other words, last year, okay, the interest rates had come up so much, so people are like, oh no, I gotta hold back, and now maybe the normalization isn't that the economic situation is normalized, but rather people have normalized that maybe this interest rate is here to stay, so I might have put off making my move last year, but it is what it is. I have to just do it now.
I mean, it's also, as Matthias says, I mean, obviously there are circumstances why people have to move, whatever, but from a purchase point of view, I mean, we talk about this all the time too, right? You sit there and you go, all right, so I'm going to hold back because maybe rates will drop at the end of 6 months or 9 months. But then you say, well, what if houses are up 5-6%? In other words, an interest rate, we have talked about this before, not that it's cheap, but interest rate can be refinanced somewhere down the line if things go my way. A house price cannot be refinanced. When you buy it today at an expensive price, it can no longer be, another,
you can't
whatever,
rebuy
you
it
can't
5 years
rebuy it
later for a lower price.
So it is what it is. So if you need a house and you're looking at the market, and Matthias, sometimes it's just supply and demand. It's just, if there's still 2 buyers for every house, there's a battle, right? It's people are willing to outbid. Now, Matthias, you mentioned inventory. Is this inventory coming from, again, people moving, so in some cases, parents passing away and the child has to, or is it they're building more and therefore the inventory is coming that way?
I think it's a little bit of both. We do have developers building rapidly, and that is good news. If you look at the market reports in our area, you see a lot of new construction coming up, and so that has an impact on inventory. But to be honest, it is still a problem. It is still a seller's market on a national level. I think we have a supply of a little bit over 3 months. A balanced market would be more like 5 or 6 months. So we are nowhere close to it being a balanced market, to be very clear about that. But the hope is that inventory improves slowly, especially in our area here, for the factors that you mentioned. Sure, sellers are more inclined to lose their locked-in rate and trade their home. So that will lead to more activity and, as a result, to a little bit more inventory on the market as well. As you mentioned, last year, a seller was less inclined, was more willing to wait to see what happens on the market. And now it's clear that, A, rates are slowly dropping, and B, that it will not significantly drop. So why wait any longer? As you said, Xavier, the home prices are still rising.
Yeah.
Compared to last year, it's fair to say that they are not rising as rapidly, but there's still growth. And so how do you compete with that? Sometimes you just have to pull the trigger if the circumstances warrant it.
Would you say it's still the case that, in other words, if you're representing a buyer, there is typically someone else competing for the same home? In other words, you're still dealing with multiple people offering on the same home?
Yeah, it's not just one
it's never just
party.
one, yeah.
It's 7 or 8 fighting for it, depending on the price range you're looking at. But looking at Charlottesville, at the median home price in the 400s, yes, you have multiple offer situations. We get that in January, and this will just increase as we're heading towards the spring market.
Absolutely. What do you see as how does it begin to change from winter to spring? Do you start to see, just more and more homes coming on the market, or do the buyers start looking first and be like, okay, where is everything? I'm always curious where you begin to see the transition happen from winter to spring, or if it might be different this year because we've had such a busier than usual January.
But again, the answer, I think, is it's mixed. So December is typically a slow month in that regard because people, focus on other things, on family and holidays. And then the new year starts, and then that psychology kicks in, euphoria in the air. People want a new start, and all that has an impact and partially defines the spring market. And we are not in the spring, but we are all talking about the spring market starting already. But in reality, it will probably be in full swing in March, April. Is this different than the past years? Again, I find it difficult to make those comparisons because we had 2020, 2021, 2022, in the pandemic, all those historic data
Kind of unusual years.
didn't really apply. Does it apply this year? Well, we will see. Compared to last year, things are slightly different. We are more optimistic in that regard.
So let me ask you a question as a realtor. So let's assume that I had a house and I wanted to sell that house, right? And it's January and February, right? And I come to you and I say, okay, I mean, there's no inventory. You tell me there's no inventory. Am I better off putting my house for sale now, even though it's not the spring because there's no inventory, or wait the spring because that's when the buyers come out? What would your I know you might say there's differences, but out of curiosity, what would your thought process be there? Put you in the spot, that's all.
I'm smiling because the default answer always is, it depends. So why bother asking a question if the answer is, it depends? Interesting question, though, because sometimes I find myself wondering, well, if I only need one buyer for my house, why does it matter whether I list in January or in June? But here's why it depends. What is your goal? Do you have to relocate? Do you have to leave the area because of life events? Are you in a hurry? Or are you just testing the waters? Are you interested in exploring what you could get for your home? What terms can you dictate to the buyer? All those are questions. And again, if you're just interested in the equity that you gained or maybe buying a bigger house, then you're probably better off waiting for a situation where you will have increased buyer activity. And so if you have 2, 3, or even more people interested in your home, chances are that you can not dictate, but the outcome for yourself will be better as opposed to just having one buyer. Now, this is an observation. Whether that's good or bad depends, again, on the situation.
Yeah.
But it's always an advantage to not be in a hurry as a seller.
Yeah.
And as a buyer as well, sure.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious from an inventory point of view. You come in, you say, there's no inventory. I'm told there's no inventory. So should I sell now?
But I guess the expected increase in buyers between now and
the increase in buyers is going to make that much of a difference.
Greater than the expected increase in inventory between now and
typically,
spring.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's what happens. Does it? Especially I think for Charlottesville, because I know, for instance, that a lot of UVA people between the hospital and others get matched or hired in that March window. So that's when you get that influx of people who suddenly now know, oh wait, I now know that I need to, because think about it, you're not going to be looking, like just thinking of medical residents, right? If you're a medical resident and you've selected 3 possible schools to go to, 3 possible hospitals, right? You're not going to go and buy a house in Charlottesville hoping that UVA matches with you in January and your match date is not till March, right? You're going to wait till you have a firm commitment and then suddenly you're going to enter the market.
Right.
All these people are going to enter in, and I can't imagine that there's that same, how do I put it? I can't imagine there's that same sense of urgency from the seller side, that March comes and all of a sudden all these sellers are like, okay, I really need to put my house for sale now and because it's March. So you might have a little bit of a mismatch where the number of buyers that enter is conceivably greater than the number of new homes that would enter.
And I really like the comparison, the example that you brought up, the UVA people. Let's take a physician moving here to work at UVA. Now, back to your question about when do I list my home? Again, if you have a home in a neighborhood close to UVA, for example, in a price range and other specifications that might be interesting to a physician moving to Charlottesville, and you know that UVA is hiring not in January, but it will be later in the second quarter of the year, for example, and oftentimes those physicians qualify for a physician loan. And so you can only get that loan within 3 months of actually starting your job at UVA. And this is just specific to this example, but I think it's a good example.
Right.
Because that means to you as a home seller, if you're interested in attracting those kind of people, physicians working at UVA, you might be better off waiting for that. But that, again, requires you knowing about those tendencies, trends happening in the area. So
Exactly.
that might be a good point for me to point out. Talk to your realtor.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what it is. It comes down to, because you can't, the individual person, right? If I own a home in Charlottesville, I can't possibly know the trends going on in this neighborhood versus that neighborhood, or this proximity to the medical center versus this proximity to the medical center.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible to keep track of all these things. It would be like an individual person who's sitting there saying, well, I keep track of what clean energy stocks are doing every day, and I keep track of this sector and that sector, so I know when to move between one and the other. No, if you have a different job and that's not your job, you wouldn't keep track of those things. So it's why you talk to a professional and say, okay,
Right.
what are you seeing that I need to think about when making the decision to list my home? But then, assuming it's not that you need to. In other words, if you need to move somewhere
Well,
in a month, it
then
doesn't
it's
matter,
different.
right?
Sure.
Your circumstances have dictated your decision. But if you have options, you kind of need that expertise to say, well, how do I analyze these options that I have?
Right. It's typically not a decision that you make overnight. No. Talk to your realtor, plan, compare your options, when is the best time. And again, as I said already, it's always an advantage to not be in a rush.
Are there things that your industry does, I guess, in this time period, typically to prepare for what you may expect in spring and summer? Like, what is the typical, I don't want to call it off-season, because there really isn't an off-season. It's not like you cease to be busy in December. But in other words, what are typical things that you begin to look for and say, these are things that I sort of store away and think about, so that when I may have more buyers approaching me in March, I have a better grasp of this, right? I can prepare them better.
Well, we live in an area with 4 seasons, so you want to consider how your home looks, the curb appeal. As we are approaching spring, you might be interested in displaying some greenery, or working on your yard before listing the home. Again, depends on your situation, but if you can wait and you are deciding between March and April, and if you think the value of the property is determined, among other things, by how your yard looks, your front yard, and you already know from your realtor that it's recommended to have a professional photographer take photographs for your listing, then maybe work on the curb appeal. Again, that requires just a conversation and planning those things, because the better prepared you are, the more you can likely get for your home at better terms.
That's, I hadn't
No,
thought of that.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
The
And that's the other
season.
thing. I mean, so I think a good realtor, typically when you discuss it, what you plan to do, they'll walk in through your house sometimes, walk around your house and kind of point out things, you need to kind of fix that, or you need to improve there. And, inside the house, sometimes people have a lot of clutter, and it's like, you want to get rid of that clutter. It's nice to be homey, because people visualize easier when there's furniture in the house when there isn't. And you and I talked about this all the time, because they see a room, it's like, it looks small, and then you see it, it's got a sofa, it's got chairs, it's got TV, it's like, wow, it's like, this is a big room, right? So, but they see things that you don't see, and so they're very helpful in being able then to walk with you through your house and say, this is what you need to do to really improve the curb appeal outside and inside.
And inside, staging a home. If a home is empty already, sometimes it makes sense to stage. Not to make it appear nicer, but you want to make sure people walking through the home or looking at it online can envision themselves living there.
Exactly.
So having a couch and a table helps them envision how to use that space. Getting ready to list your home also depends on the opinion of the professional. I have this example of a person wanting to sell their property, and they told me, well, we have to wait a few months because we have to fix A, B, C, and D. It's a rather old property, but in an excellent location. And so we took this opportunity to sit down and talk about the best plan moving forward. And as a result, it was not the best solution to spend money and time and work into fixing this property, because likely someone will actually, make modifications to this home. So why not let the buyer do that?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is it's not always the best idea to spend a lot of money and work into fixing something that the next person owning it might change anyway. So again,
it's true. I mean, sometimes I hear that. I see people who's like, oh, I'm going to sell my home, so I'm going to renovate my kitchen. So they renovate the kitchen.
Might
and
not be the best
somebody
taste.
comes in and says, I don't like the way this
I
kitchen
don't like the
looks.
style.
Exactly. So it's like you just spend, $20,000, but whoever's buying is like, that's not for me.
But
well,
you would be supporting the local economy, though.
well, the person buying it was going to support it anyway, because they're going to sit there and go, it's an old kitchen, so, okay, the price is a little, the price I'm getting is reflective of the fact that I need to put a new kitchen, but now I can put the kitchen that I want. I suppose somebody else puts the kitchen they want. I mean, I guess you have both, and there's people who don't want to go through that.
Wouldn't it depend somewhat also? Do you have to consider the how much of the value of the property is the value of the house built on it versus the value of the land? In other words, if the land is extremely valuable, and you say most of what this land of this property is worth is because it's in a very good spot, such that no one really cares what house is on it. They may even just tear down the house and put their own house. That would change your calculation versus, okay, the location is okay, but the house is beautiful. In which case, how the house looks is a little more relevant, because no one would buy this merely to tear it down.
Exactly, and that would be part of the strategy. And you have to develop the strategy by talking about it with, getting one opinion, maybe even two opinions, and what you say actually applies. And the example I was just talking about, in that case, the location was so good and the house was not as nice that it made sense to look at the value of the property based on the location and the land and the value it brings to the table, as opposed to the house itself.
Right.
So every situation is different.
Yeah, and you see it sometimes. When I look, sometimes when I keep tracking on the Realtor app and look at things and so forth, you'll see like a house, and I mean it looks kind of broken down, kind of old, and the property isn't even that big, and it's worth. No, actually, no. The house is not even that big. The house is like 1,500 square feet or something, right? And small, and then you're like, how on earth is this thing selling for like $700,000? And then you look and it says 10 acres, and you're like, all of this value is, and then you look where it is, and you're like, all of this value is the land. In other words, no one cares what the house is on it, because they're probably just going to tear down the house and start over. What they want is the 10 acres. Yeah. And so that it really depends where you are and what your land looks like. Sometimes that'll affect how you decide what how important the actual building on it is.
And sometimes it's hard to tell a property owner that the value not lies in the home, but actually the land. You know, oftentimes people are emotionally attached, and
home,
maybe they have spent a lot of time and work and their own money into that building, just to have me come and tell that person that it's not as attractive or not as valuable as you might think. How do you compare emotional with objective value there?
Exactly.
So that's difficult.
Well,
But
another important role you play, because I think, it's a behavioral thing in behavioral economics, right? That people always, the individual who owns something, always has a tendency to overvalue that which they own and undervalue that which they don't own. This happens even with stocks. In other words, if people own Costco, they're going to be like, oh, Costco is a really great company. It should be worth even more than it is. And if you don't own Costco and you're thinking about it, well, the price should come down. It's not that great, right?
It's too
so
expensive.
can you imagine, take that and multiply that by 10, because now it's your home. You're always going to have a tendency to be like, oh no, my home should be worth
everybody's
this.
gonna love this home.
And
Yeah.
everybody's going to love this home, right? But the problem is, if you try to achieve that, you may end up overpricing your home when the list price, and then you sit there and, oh, nobody's offering. What did I do wrong? So it does take, as hard as it is, right? It does take that what do they call it? They call it like the arm's length person. In other words, someone who's on your side, which you are, right? But someone who's one step removed and doesn't actually own the property to say, this is what, in other words, I'm still here to help you sell this property, right? But I have a better idea, a more objective view of where its value lies.
Right. I remember the lady telling me that she raised all her children in that home, and that she spent 5 days every week working in the yard and her husband painting. The perception of value was $1 million, but it was not the reality.
Yeah.
Sure. And so bringing objection to the table is important there, yeah?
And probably not the
That's
easiest thing
That's got to be
do.
tough. Yeah, that's got to be tough.
Sometimes the truth can hurt.
You know.
And again, looking at numbers it's not the only thing we do.
Exactly.
There are several factors that we take into consideration, and again, it's just part of strategizing.
Yeah.
Exactly. A couple thank yous as we get close to wrap up time. Anna Yon, that's
my sister.
That's your sister. Okay, Anna Yon is watching. Bill McChesney watching. Mark Hunt watching. Brenna Rice liking the show this morning. Is Anna? Is she watching from? Is she here in?
So my sister was just here last week visiting,
Okay.
but she lives in Arizona.
Oh, so we've got all the way from Arizona joining us. No, was going to be like is she
International
watching from
guests,
That would be
yeah.
impressive. So watching from Arizona, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. So Matthias, I always learn so much.
Absolutely,
having
yeah.
you
No,
on.
it's
Just about,
nice. That's what's nice,
I
just
think it's
conversing.
It's
you
as
know?
much about the process as the predictions or the end result, because it's to know what are important things to think about and to know and almost what you should be asking. I think one of the great benefits of people watching this is to know what should you be actually asking your realtor, because it's kind of getting into your mind and knowing, okay, this is important to know. This is important to ask, or to, if someone I know isn't asking me these questions, are they doing, the right job for me? Are they thinking it through? So it's just important to reflect on those things and to have these conversations.
We were talking earlier, actually not me, but Jesse, who was here before me, he was talking about the advantage of the personal approach as opposed to everything being online. And I think he mentioned AI and how it's a very different approach. And I'm always thankful for opportunities like this one here, where we can actually, in a conversational style, talk about the pros and cons of a topic. And also it gives me the opportunity to let people know I'm a real person. This is not an online platform where you sign up and they tell you to list your home tomorrow at that price. No, it's a process with real people, just like you do it in your business. And I want to thank you guys actually for having this platform here that allows local small businesses to come and talk about their business. And again, Jesse, who was here earlier, he said something that I liked. He pointed out that we have this strong community here, and I think sitting here reminds me of that.
Yeah.
So again,
Thank you, yeah,
thanks for having me on a monthly basis.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you
It's
for
a
coming.
Always nice to be
pleasure.
here.
We always look forward to it, and it's a joy. Like you said, like Jesse said, it is a great community that appreciates small business. So we just love being part of that, and hoping to keep that.
And we're
going.
always amazed how many small businesses, are
There
here
are.
in Charlottesville, and to be able to help them is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you once again.
Thank you, yes.
for
Thank you,
joining us,
and
Matthias.
see you next time.
See you next time. See
Absolutely.
you next time. Thank you to Clay Smith watching the show this morning. Appreciate it. We had some great viewers watching this morning, tuning in from even
All
afar, all over. So we definitely appreciate everyone who tuned in. We've got next week another local small business. We're going to have on Steve Harvey from First Free Coffee Bar. He's going to be coming on. So we're going to
Free coffee?
I don't know. We're going to find out what it means. I don't think you can't all be free coffee.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding. I know you are. I know you are.
The first coffee is free. The second one you got to pay for. There you are. As opposed to the opposite, right?
So definitely appreciate it, and appreciate being on here with you.
Oh, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure
fun,
being here.
Always fun to be here. Thank you, Judah.
And did you think he really meant that? And he giggled when you said that. So I'm really thinking now. Wait a minute, maybe.
I love being on
I'm
with
just
you
kidding.
and with Michael. Neither of you supplants the other in my heart.
Thank you.
I have enough love in my heart for both you
Appreciate
and for Michael. Nick, for you and Michael, there's more than enough. And of course, plenty of love in my heart for Judah behind the camera.
Always, for sure.
Making us all look good. Always doing great work on the fly, getting the pictures up to show people, the art and so forth. So really appreciate all that he does. Love being here on the I Love CVille Network set. Of course, love our great partners, Castle Hill Cider, Matthias Realty, Craddock Serious Insurance, Forward Adelante. Thanks to Emergent Financial Services for presenting. Thank you all for joining us. We always appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you next week. I don't know if it'll be you and myself, but we'll find out. So
Right now, I think so.
Right now, it looks like it will be Xavier and myself, so we look forward to seeing you next week. But until that time, as we like to close it out, hasta mañana.